Hey guys, this is Alex Sutherland. I am the creator of Table Ninja 1 and GTO Range Builder. I also do poker theory coaching and work with some of the top players around the world on GTO strategies. And today I want to make a video about deliberate practice and talk a little bit about a software program I've been collaborating with the Simple Post Flop guys on called GTO Trainer. So what is deliberate practice and why is it important for poker? Deliberate practice means systematically picking core skills and practicing them with a concrete feedback mechanism where those core skills are subsets of the kind of larger activity that you're trying to master. And deliberate practice was invented, studied by a guy named Anders Ericsson, who basically stumbled upon the concept when playing chess himself. He had a chess opponent that he routinely beat. They played about the same amount of games, and then one day the opponent just blew by him, crushed him, and did so thenceforth. And that made him interested in studying how people improve at skills. And you may have heard some of his research. There's kind of the theory of 10,000 hours allow you to master a skill. He's reasonably famous, and his work is applied in business, in sports psychology, and all sorts of venues. And the key idea that he espoused is that the difference between an expert or elite performer and a normal person is a deliberate effort to improve performance in a specific domain. And that how to become an expert has more to do with how you practice than merely practicing a large number of times. An expert breaks down the skills that are required to be an expert and focuses on improving those skill chunks during practice or in day-to-day activities. And this is often paired with immediate coaching feedback. And I want to talk about this idea as it relates to poker because I think we have all encountered players who play a large volume of hands, or they've played poker for decades, and they've never really gotten much better. They've put in their 10,000 hours, and they are nowhere near master. And Ericsson, that 10,000 hour number was really misinterpreted. That was 10,000 hours of deliberate practice. His view was just doing something for 10,000 hours may not make you good at it at all, depending on what the skill is. So deliberate practice is not just doing the thing a lot without intention. The reason deliberate's in there is because you're deliberately picking something and you're saying, tomorrow I'm going to be better at this specific chunk than I am today. And doing that repeatedly with intention is how you get good at almost anything in life. So, this really is the long-term driver of poker skill, in my opinion. Some people have better intuition, they start at a higher point. But almost any player's ceiling is driven by how much deliberate practice they're willing to put in. And there's scientific disagreement about some of Ericsson's work. But for the most part, it's about whether deliberate practice is the only driver of success or the major driver. No one really argues that it's not at least the major driver. And you can check out some of those disagreeing opinions here. So, why does deliberate practice matter, especially for poker? Deliberate practice versus repetition of just doing something a lot is most important when A, mastery requires a diverse set of loosely connected skills, and B, the feedback loop on whether you did something well or not is inconsistent. So what do I mean by those two? Another good game where deliberate practice really pays off would be golf. In golf, if we want to focus on item 1 here, there is so many different situations in golf, and there's many of the core skills of golf are basically completely unrelated. So being really good at driving and being really good at putting have very little in common. You could spend a year going to the driving range 4 hours a day, and your putting game would not get better. And similarly, you could spend a year putting and your driving wouldn't get better. And golf is, how good you are at golf as a whole is the combination of how well you can put those skills, driving, chipping, mid-range hitting with irons, your 3-wood skills, and your putting together to have a score at the end. And the reason that repetition doesn't work is that to actually get better at something, you need a feedback loop to where you try something, it doesn't quite work, you make an adjustment, you try it again, and you hone in and train kind of muscle memory so you have these automatic responses to stimuli that are approximately right. And for that to happen requires deliberate practice. If you just go out and play a lot of rounds of golf, you'll get a little better very slowly, but you're kind of inching along at every skill in parallel instead of taking giant leaps forward in a specific skill that you might get by spending an hour at the driving range, spending an hour at the putting green, spending an hour at the chipping, practicing your chipping, and then spending an hour at the driving range with your irons. If you wanted to track a player over time, one player plays a 4-hour round of golf, 18 holes, and the other player spends an hour at the driving range, an hour at the chipping station, an hour at the putting green, and an hour hitting with their irons. I will, bet any amount of money that the player who does those 4 skills separately for 4 hours consistently over a year will make massively larger gains in skill than someone who just goes and plays a round of golf, because they get that repeated feedback that lets them hone each skill in isolation. And poker is very similar in this respect. Poker has, how do you play in 3-bet pots? How do you play in raised pots? How do you play in position? How do you play out of position? How do you play heads up? How do you play, small blind versus big blind in 6-max? How do you play EP versus big blind? There's all of these situations that are, they all have similarities, but they also all require significant adjustments. And if you don't practice those situations in isolation, it's very hard to become good enough to make rapid progress at any one of them. Then the other core element is that the feedback loop is inconsistent. And for this, I might draw a parallel to something like tennis. In tennis, you get feedback when you hit a shot. Either you hit it really well or you hit it out of bounds. But a lot of times that outcome is based on earlier decisions in the hand, and it can be hard to know exactly earlier decisions in the point, and it can be hard to know exactly where you went wrong. Maybe you got out of balance and missed your forehand, but it was because on your previous shot your backhand wasn't deep enough, and your opponent was able to hit a ball that you could barely reach. In poker, the feedback loop is even more inconsistent. There's really no game that has a more inconsistent feedback loop than poker. If you just sit down and play a session of poker without doing careful review after the fact, you get very little information on whether your decisions were good or bad, because there's so much luck both in which cards come out and which hand in your opponent's range they happen to hold, that relying on the feedback loop of your actual results at the poker table to help you get better is highly likely to leave you running around in circles and making no progress. So in my opinion, poker is one of the games that rewards deliberate practice versus repetition the most, because it really hits both of these bullets on the head. And I want to give a quick example of, before we get into how to get better at poker, how to use deliberate practice in poker, I want to give an example of tennis, because this is personal for me. I played tennis all through from, when I was 7 all the way through college. I still play some today. And, I play recreationally, and I don't get better at tennis anymore because I go out and play a match with my friends. I don't do deliberate practice. So if you're on a tennis team that's actually trying to get better, that's actually trying to win matches, or if you're a professional tennis player or an elite tennis player, you will spend upwards of 80% of the time that you spend playing tennis not playing tennis matches. You will do drills, you will do exercises, and you will play kind of what I might call mini games, portions of a point. And these drills will isolate specific types of strokes or types of situations and have you do them over and over again. So for example, you might go out with a partner and you'll hit cross-court forehands to each other. So you'll both hit forehands diagonally to the other person's forehand. And that's a very specific skill. It's how you hit a forehand in a certain direction when the ball is coming at you from a certain direction. Then you might mix it up and have one person hit down the line and the other person hit cross-court, so they can get used to hitting that same stroke in the same direction, but with a ball that's coming at them from a different direction. You'll take these very nuanced situations that may be quite similar or maybe very different. Forehands and backhands are totally different. And you'll practice them over and over for about between 5 and 15 minutes at a time, and hone that specific skill. And you might also just go out solo and serve a bunch of balls or hit with a ball machine. But either of these would be deliberate practice on a very focused single skill. Then one of the other common things to do in a tennis regimen is to play out points from a specific situation. So you might have a person hit an approach shot, that's the shot before you come into net, and then to play out the point with one person at the net and one person at the baseline. Or you might get together with a partner and say, I'm going to hit a topspin second serve to your backhand, and then we're going to play out the point from there. So you'll take these kind of smaller components of the full game and play over and over and over, but you're not drilling a specific single skill like a cross-court forehand, you're drilling a situation. And, that can expand a bit into mini games where you might play games with no serving, slightly smaller games. And then a full match would be what you might do with a small percentage of your overall practice time. And if you actually want to get better at tennis, you need to spend the majority of your time on these three and the minority on these. And recreational tennis players who go out with a friend, even if they play 2 or 3 times a week and they go do this, which I know plenty of people who've done that from their 20s through 40s, they rarely make significant progress in their skill level. And I would argue poker is the same way. So what is the equivalent of this type of training regimen for poker? That's what GTO Trainer is designed to provide. And so I wanted to give you guys a look at what that looks like. So this is something you can get with my 3-bet cash pack. You don't need any other software. You just get the pack. It does everything for you. And you get a collection of drills here. These are all different situations that you can practice and learn. And so if we want to take something like this one, which is reacting to C-bets in 3-bet pots, when I load this up, you can see it's loaded up a situation. You can see the player's ranges here. This is a 3-bet range for big blind versus cutoff. I'm here with my calling range versus that 3-bet. My opponent C-bet at me. And all I'm deciding is what to do against this C-bet. And right when I make a decision, I get real-time feedback on what GTO play does. And it tells me how much EV I lost, what the percentage of the time GTO would take the action is, and what my action choice was. And I'm allowed to mix here. So if this is a hand I think I might raise sometimes or call sometimes, I could slide these around and put that in. I'm just going to call this one because GTO doesn't raise C-bets in 3-bet pots very often at all. And as you can see, this only takes a few seconds per hand. I can say, okay, this one's a fold. Well, this close to a call. This might be a mix. I'm not sure. Yeah, it's a mix, mostly fold. And I have some sessions I've done here before. You can see I get through about 50 hands in about 5 minutes. So this is very comparable to that tennis drill where you do, if you want to do 100 hands, that might be 10 minutes. If you want to do 50 hands, that might be 5 minutes. And at the end of each 50 hands, you get a summary screen. And so a summary screen will look like this, and we'll show you some aggregate results. So this is the overall call frequency, the overall fold frequency, and the green line is what GTO would do, and the red line is what I did. So I was calling a little bit too much in the session, but I was quite close. And then it also breaks it down by hand strength, so I can see there's systematic errors in my play by type of hand. So for example, I am folding my weak pairs. This would be like an under pair or a weak third pair. I'm folding those too much, and GTO actually calls them about half the time. And I also am not raising with my flopped flushes enough, small deviations in play, and this is over 50 hands. I can even go into the sessions tab and aggregate this across all the times I played this drill. And then the other thing you note is it shows you your overall session progress. And so this would be reasonably common. I had a friend help him play the first few of these to show kind of improvement. So he did the first 3. This would be reasonably common for a new player. They'll see this kind of rapid improvement where he's halved his EV losing mistakes. So EV losing is when you take an action GTO would never take. He's got his frequencies much tighter. And you actually get 2 types of feedback from GTO Trainer as you go. You get your EV loss in BBs per 100, and then you also get your GTO deviation, which is how far your strategy was from GTO in terms of your mixing choices. And so he was 9.51 in his first session. After just 15 minutes of deliberate practice, he was down to 7.22, so that's about a 20% gain, and his EV loss cut in about, half. So you can make really, really rapid progress doing this deliberately, and this only took, 20 minutes. And I would claim that you will get better in 1 hour of deliberate practice, do like 15 minutes a day for 4 days, than you would playing these situations live and hoping they come out. Hoping, big blind versus cutoff 3-bet pot situations come up for 10 or 20,000 hands. You can get that same gain of skill in about an hour. So that corresponds to this drill section. We've got specific drills. We take a very specific situation and we play that one situation over and over. And we're making fine-grained decisions of not just what to do, but what frequency to do it with. and we're getting real-time feedback as we go so that we can learn very quickly. Then the next kind of level here would be playing out the point from a specific situation. And so this was also built into GTO Trainer, and again, this is something you can get with either my core GTO pack or my 3-bet cash pack. These regular mode games, I can now say, okay, I think I've mastered my response to third pot C-bets in 3-bet pots. So I'm going to go into that exact same situation, but I'm going to actually play out the hand from that point forward. So if we go to second to load, we can now see in this situation, we start with these same ranges. I can choose either to play as both randomly as both positions, or I can choose just to focus on my IP play if I want. And then rather than picking a frequency, I just pick a single action. So I'm going to check this. And it will tell me what the GTO frequency for the action will be. So GTO almost always checks it. I'll check again here. And rather than just doing that single decision, I play out the rest of the hand from this point. So I can practice my full post-flop strategy on, should have bet that. I can practice my full post-flop strategy on one specific type of situation over and over. And so this is the equivalent of playing out the point in tennis from a particular situation, and lets you expose yourself to a fair amount more variety in types of situations, but still gives you that real-time feedback of, you know, am I playing correctly? What percentage would GTO do this? And kind of systematically learn that way. So that is kind of the equivalent from a tennis perspective of playing out the point. And similarly to what you get in your reporting for drills, if you want to look at your reporting for custom games, or regular mode, as it's called here, you can go ahead and go to the Sessions tab here and filter your regular games, and you can filter them by specific categories. And then you can go ahead and load a summary, or you can aggregate across multiple sessions and get this view of your range. So, you know, I can see that I bet my flush is too much. I probably want to isolate this to a specific situation to make sense of that. But you can see when your ranges become significantly different from GTO and how they may be well-balanced or not well-balanced in varieties of situations, as you also get this kind of aggregate idea of where your EV loss is coming from and how you can get systematically better at it. So the way this all works is there's kind of two options for how you want to use GTO Trainer. Option one is that you can purchase standalone training packs. So the software itself, the GTO Trainer software, is free to download. You can go get it at the link that I'll put in the description here for free. And it comes with a few default starting drills and starting regular games. If you want to get serious, you can either buy the GTO Core Pack or my new GTO 3-bet Cash Pack, or one of these other game-specific pack types. To practice specific situations, those come with pre-computed solutions, fully ready to go. You buy it, you get something that looks exactly like this. You know, you click play and you're going. Probably you can be fully up and running in the space of 5 minutes. The other option is if you already own Simple Postflop or PO Solver, you can hook one of those two solvers into Simple Postflop. You can compute your own custom PO or Simple Postflop solutions, and you can build your own drills for yourself and your own regular games for yourself based on your own ranges, your own situations. You can set up exploitative strategies and practice playing those exploitative strategies. You can really use it to do anything you can imagine, pre-flop, post-flop, what have you. So if you're looking for something to get up and running with GTO practice quickly, especially if you're new to GTO, definitely these packs are the cheapest, fastest way to turn GTO theory into better poker play. I'm 100% confident of that. And then if you're a more advanced GTO student already, and you already have PO or Simple Postflop, then GTO Trainer really lets you turn that analysis that you've done into a concrete training regimen to let you deliberately improve at poker. So I'm going to wrap this up here. Thank you for watching. Definitely let me know what you think in the comments, either on my blog, on Twitter, on YouTube. And definitely check out GTO Trainer in the link in the description. Bye, guys.